morning, Gritch the witch woke up, and she was super hungry. So she walked into the kitchen to think of what she could eat. Spider noodle soup? Nah, that's way too bitter. Dragon tongue? Nah, that's too sweet. Ah, I have it. Piggy pie. So she walked into her pantry. On the top shelf. She reached out and grabbed her cookbook. She turned to the secret page 342 and she found it. Ah, piggy pie. She looked at the ingredients. Spiderweb? No problem. Otter hair? No problem. 8 plump piggies. Big problem. I don't even have 1 plump piggy, and I have to have 8 plump piggies. So she stomped her feet and grabbed her hair, and then she thought, wait, what if I get them at the zoo? Wait, they don't have pigs at the zoo, do they? At the circus. Wait, not the circus. A farm. Then she remembered there's an ad in a newspaper for Old MacDonald's farm. So she walked over, and out of her cabinet she pulled out the ad for Old MacDonald's farm. Then she looked in the phone book. They used to have those, So she got on her broomstick and turned it into drive and flew away. Then in the air above the farm she put, "Surrender your piggies." But what she didn't know is that there were some pretty smart piggies living on that farm. So they made a mischievous plan on how to stay alive. So she landed. That was a rough landing. She brushed herself off and walked around, but she couldn't find any piggies anywhere. But then she found some ducks just sitting in a pond. So and they were like really weird looking ducks. They were also really ugly. So she walked up to the ducks and said, "You are the ugliest duckling." Then she said, "Where are your piggies?" Then the duck said, "Quack, quack, oink, oh, excuse me, no piggies." "Of course there's piggies, they're on the flyer." And she stomped away. Then she found some chickens. So she walked into the barn and found some chickens. Then she said, "Where are your piggies?" And there's something about these chickens, they just didn't seem right. Their ducks were facing left and their other ducks were leaving right. They were just really weird looking. But then she said, "Where are your piggies?" So the chicken said, "No piggies." Oink, oh, excuse me. "Of course there has to be piggies. It's a farm and it's on the flyer." And she said, "I'll crush your eggs," and stomped out of the barn. Then she found some cows, and these cows were like really curvy and lumpy. They were just really weird. So she said, "Where are your piggies?" And they said, "Oink, oh, excuse me, moo, no piggies." "Of course there has to be piggies. They're on the flyer." Then she stomped away and yelled back, "I will spoil your milk." Then she stomped away and she found Old MacDonald. But Old MacDonald had like 4 arms and just really weird, as well as all the animals on the farm. So she was getting a little suspicious, but Gritch was kind of dumb, so she didn't really know. So she said, "Where are your piggies?" And Old MacDonald said, "No piggies." Oink, sorry. And then she said, "Of course there's piggies. They're on the flyer," and stomped away. But then she found a wolf, and he was like a really beat up wolf, and he was really thin, and he barely had any meat on his bones. And he said, "Are you still trying to get those piggies? I've been trying to get them for years." And she said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Well, I would love to have witch for lunch." And the witch said, "I would love to have wolf for lunch." So then the piggies all lived happily ever after, and they especially lived. The end.
Once there was a big wide-mouthed frog, the biggest, whitest mouth you ever did see. One day, the big wide-mouthed frog went to see the world. The first creature he met had big thumping feet. "Hey there, big thumping feet. Who are you and what do you eat?" I'm a kangaroo, said Kangaroo, and I eat grass. Well, I'm a big white mouth frog, and I like to eat flies. The second creature he met had a big black nose. Hey there, big black nose. Who are you and what do you eat? I'm a koala, said Koala, and I eat leaves. Well, I'm a big white mouth frog, and I like to eat flies. The third creature he met had upside down creature. Hey there, ho there, upside down creature. Who are you and what do you eat? I'm a possum, and I like to eat blossoms. Well, I'm a big white mouth frog, and I like to eat flies. The fourth creature he met had 3 long toes. Hey there, 3 long toes. Who are you and what do you eat? Shouted out the big white mouth frog. I'm an emu, said Emu, and I eat grasshoppers. Well, I'm a big white mouth frog and I like to eat flies. The big white mouth frog jumped down to the riverbank and he saw a knobby brown log. Hey there, big knobby brown log. Who are you and what do you eat? Said the big white mouth frog. The crocodile opened his mouth and put a lazy smile. Hello there, I'm a crocodile, said Crocodile, and I eat big wide mouth frogs. Who are you and what do you eat? The big wide mouth frog puckered up his lips to make them small. Me? I'm just a narrow mouth frog, and I'm off.
Once upon a time, there lived 2 children, one named Michael, one named Jane. Katie not really in this story. They flew a kite with Katie Nana, and she was so slimy and crossed. The constable took him home. They had a long talk. Then Mary Poppins flew in. Like this. Over the gate. And Mary Poppins was a magical nanny. They had a lovely time together. They had a party on the rooftop. Kick your knees up, tap, tap, tap. Step in time. They flew a kite with their mother and father. Then Poppins flew off. I'm going off to take care of more children. Whew. The end.
It was this one beautiful day. It was after school, and then it seemed like a normal day, right? But then my brother stayed at his friend's house after school, and my mom said when we got home, well, since Spencer isn't here, of course you have to take the garbage can to the curb. So we got home, I went out of the car, and then I walked over to the beautiful garbage can. And then, since you know those horror movies, of course I checked what was inside of it. And then I just saw something like garbage bags. So I just pulled it to the curb, but then I smelled something. I was just like, what's that? So I took a better look, and then the terrible thing happened. I saw a dead rat. I started screaming in terror. There's a dead rat! My mom said that when she heard that, she wished she had a camera. I was kind of disappointed, but also my friend Allie was over. So basically, she looked at she was in my room, she looked at the dead rat and said, "Oh, I wish I had my camera." She walked away, and then I was in confusion. I don't know what I did then. I was just thinking to myself, what? Why a camera? Well, I don't know. So basically, I walked inside. The next day, at dinner, I was sitting at the table, and I said to my stepdad, "I found a dead rat in the garbage can yesterday." And then he said, "Oh, yeah." So I was in the garage getting something, and then I saw this big chunky boy, and then I thought, well, that's a good idea. And he screamed like a young lady, took a shotgun from somewhere, I don't know, maybe a shelf, and then shot the dang thing dead. So then he let it die for like 2 nights, and then he pulls it in the garbage can thinking no one would notice. So then that happened, and then I've been mortified since. Thank you.
Once upon a time, in Massachusetts, there stood a granite rock, and this rock wasn't any normal rock. It wasn't the rock that you would see every day as you stroll around the street. This rock had a grove in it, and it contained flowers known as forget-me-nots, which are flowers, yeah. And above this granite rock was a lighthouse. So now we go to where the story actually begins. So a young man and a young woman are strolling along the streets of Massachusetts, and the man suddenly has the brightest idea that he was going to give his girl this flower, because this flower was known to be a good way to represent your love between one another. And so the man, he thinks to himself, I have to do this really smoothly to make sure that she's good with this idea. So he leans in very close, and says, "Hey, can I get you a flower?" And the girl just responds with yes, because why would she not? So the man decides that he has to do it this instant, because it is almost near winter, and he doesn't want to end up not getting the flower. So he starts booking it down to the lighthouse, because their car was very far away. So he's already booking it. The young girl, she's falling behind. She is nowhere near him. He has set his goal. So the man eventually reaches this lighthouse, and as soon as he gets there, he sees a boat. This is great. The man thought to himself, man, this is great. There's a boat. I will go, row myself, get the flowers, go right back. It'll be that easy. Said and done. So he hops onto the boat. No second thoughts. He just goes. The wife doesn't even care at this point. So he hops onto this boat and he starts rowing out. But little did he know, in the back of his mind, there was someone on the lighthouse yelling, "Watch out, there's high currents!" And he didn't notice, and he probably didn't care. So he continues to row out until eventually a giant wave rolls in, taking him under the water along with the boat. And I would say that this will be, said and done, easy, but it wasn't just one, it was multiple. So he's continuously under the water. The young girl has a pale face and is completely shocked. She's just standing there. She's near crying. She really is thinking to herself, oh my gosh, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. So the man is just kind of like under the water now. And the wife isn't very happy about this. She is crying. She's now crying. Crying. And the lighthouse man that watches this all happen is under panic, and he's befuddled. He starts running to the phone. He calls 911 as fast as he can. He can't figure out and remember how to spell 111. So he continues to try and spell it, and he finally gets it. He calls, he tells him someone went under the water. In a matter of a few minutes, rescuers show up, other things. And he is eventually almost thought to be recovered. Because sadly enough, to the wife's sweet avail, he was not recovered. He died under the water. The rescuers tried and tried, but he was under the water to a point that was beyond rescuing. The wife fell to her knees and started crying and sobbing. And this is how the fatal forget-me-not was created. The end.
The giant Jum was a grumpy old grouch who was constantly grizzling and grumbling. And when he got hungry, he'd slobber and slouch and say, "Oh, how my tummy is rumbling." Fee, he said, and fie, he said, and foe, he said, and fum. Oh, I pine, oh, I wish for a child on a dish. Children are yummy, yum, yum. And he thought of a tale that his brother had told of a beanstalk and a boy known as Jack. He'd be nice, thought the giant, if eaten quite cold, with a side dish of beans for a snack. He strode through the land with such thunderous stomps that the trees started shaking and swaying. Through fields and forests, through rivers and swamps, to gardens where children were playing. Fee, he said, and fie, he said, and foe, he said, and fum. Oh, I pine, oh, I wish for a child on a dish. Children are yummy, yum, yum. But the children said, "What a magnificent man! You're so marvelously magic and tall." And they said, "Will you help us? We're sure you can. Oh, please, will you fetch us our ball?" The giant said, "Well, I suppose it won't hurt, but soon have no fear. I'll be back. You'd be scrumptious of eaten with cream for dessert, just as soon as I've gobbled that Jack." Foe, he said, and fie, he said, and fum, he said, and fee. Children taste nice, mixed with pasta or rice, and they're perfect when popped in a pie. The children ran up and they yelled, "Look at that! Up there on the leaves! Can you see? Oh, please, will you help us rescue our cat? He's stuck up in that sycamore tree." The giant said, "Well, I suppose it won't hurt, but soon have no fear. I'll be back. You'd be scrumptious of eaten with cream for dessert, just as soon as I've gobbled that Jack." Foe, he said, and fie, he said, and fum, he said, and fee. My very best treat is some children to eat, and I'll start with the littlest toe. But the smallest boy whispered, "My legs are so sore." And he slumped to the ground and he cried, "I can't make it home. I can't walk anymore." And he said, "Oh, please, will you give me a ride?" The giant said, "Well, I suppose I don't mind." The boy said, "I love you. You're wonderfully kind. What is your name?" "I'm called Jack." "Fee," he said, and fie, he said, and little Jack's snack, is that right? I'll plump you and stew you and gulp you and chew you, and I'll gobble you up in one bite. But the children said, "Oh, no, you won't. We think you've made a mistake. You're such a nice giant. You couldn't. Nice giants always eat cake." The giant was starving. His tummy was rumbling. But then he said, "Wait, are you sure? I'm grizzly and grumpy and grouchy and grumbly. I've never been called kind before." "You rescued our cat from a tree," shouted Jack, "and you fetched us our ball. You're so kind. You gave me a ride through the streets on your back, so we made this for you. Have a slice." "Oh," he said, and ha, he said, and yum, he said, and he. "Chocolate is much better than children." And he ate it all up with his tea. The end.
So once upon a time there was a boy and a girl, and the boy's name was Jake and the girl's name was Elise. And Elie said, will you mind making me a gingerbread man? And the brother said, sure. And so he went to the kitchen and grabbed everything to make the gingerbread man. And so he popped the gingerbread man into the oven. And then when the gingerbread man was done, he took out the gingerbread man, and then the gingerbread man popped out of the window, and he said, so long, bye, you can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. So he ran and ran until he stopped by a pig, and the pig said, oh, you look delicious to eat. And the gingerbread man said, no way, you are not gonna eat me. And then he ran and he said, so long, bye, you can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. So he ran and ran until he stopped by some of these cows. And then the cows said, oh, I'm hungry, I haven't ate all day. You look delicious to eat. And the gingerbread man said, no way, you can't eat me, I'm the gingerbread man. So he said, bye, so long. And he ran and ran and until he stopped by a river. And he said, I can't go through the river, I will get smushed. And so there was a fox, and the fox came to the gingerbread man, and the fox said, hop on my back, I'll take you to the river. And so he hopped on his back, and they went through the river, and the fox said, why don't you hop on my nose? And so he hopped on his nose, and the fox opened his mouth, and he ate him. The end.
In a land far, far away in Mexico, there was a little village with many people, but one stood out among them all. Her name was Maria, and she was beautiful. And when I say beautiful, I mean beautiful. She was so gorgeous, and she knew this. She was so vain. She'd always show up and know that she was better than everyone else. She would just walk around and look at everyone, but wouldn't pay attention to them because she knew she was better. So she'd always say, I am going to marry the best man there possibly is. So she went looking around, but no one in her village interested her. So she just ignored them, shrugged them off, until this one guy from another village stopped and looked at Maria. He was startled by her beauty. So, of course, he went and sang her a song. He sang it so beautifully that Maria fell in love, like love at first sight. They both knew. So then soon they got married. But it's not a happily ever after, because soon he just kept not showing up to Maria, kept ignoring her, only looked at the kids, and he'd come back to work and just do nothing. She felt really bad, like she had done something wrong, but she didn't. It was all him. And then one day, when he comes back from work, he comes with another woman. And of course, Maria does not take this good at all. She grabs her 2 children, decides to drown them in a lake. At first, she didn't feel anything because she thought she was doing right. But then it hit her. Guilt. Then she ran off to try to get her children. They were already dead. She couldn't do anything. So she just sat there lamenting their death and said, Ay, mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? Ay. She just kept on crying and crying. She didn't know how to stop. She tried to find them. She tried to call the whole village, but no one could do anything. They were already dead. So Maria just stayed there the whole night. And soon after, she died. Then, a couple months after they had forgotten about Maria, a person walked up to the river at night and heard the same sound. Ay, mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? Ay. But he was like scared, so he ran off, and then he started telling more people about it. As soon as they all heard it, they knew it was Maria, La Llorona, the weeping woman. Thank you.
Once upon a time, there lived a very lazy bear who had lots of money and lots of land. His father had been a very hard business worker and had given all of his wealth to his son. But all Bear wanted to do was sleep. Not far down the road lived a hare. Although Hare was clever, he sometimes got into trouble. Hare had once owned land too, but now he had nothing. Hare and his family were in very bad shape.
The children are so hungry, Father Hare. We must think of something, Mrs. Hare cried one day. So Hare and Mrs. Hare put their heads together and cooked up a plan. The next day, Hare hopped down the road toward Bear's house. Wake up, Bear. Bear opened one eye and grunted. We can be business partners. All we need is this field right here in front of your house. I'll do the planting and harvesting and we can split the profit. I'll work and you sleep. Huh? said Bear. So what will it be, Bear? The top half or the bottom half? It's up to you. Tops or bottoms?
Let's see. I think I'll take the top half, Hare. Yeah, tops.
It's a done deal.
So Bear went back to sleep and Hare and his family went to work. Hare planted, Mrs. Hare watered, and everyone waited.
When it was
Bear slept as the crops grew.
When it was time for the harvest, Hare called out, Wake up, Bear, you get the tops and I get the bottoms. Hare and his family plucked off all the tops of the carrots, the beets, and the radishes and put them into a pile for Bear and put the bottoms aside for themselves.
Bear looked at his pile. Hare, you have tricked me.
You chose the tops, Bear.
Hare, you've tricked me. You plant this field again, and this season, I want the bottoms.
Hare agreed. It's a done deal.
So Bear went back to sleep, and Hare and his family went to work. Hare planted, Mrs. Hare watered, and everyone waited. Bear slept as the crops grew.
When it was time for the harvest, Hare called out, Wake up, Bear. You get the bottoms and I get the tops. So Hare and his family pulled off all the bottoms of the celery, the broccoli, and the lettuce and put them into a pile for Bear and put the tops aside for themselves.
Bear looked at his pile and scowled. Hare, you have cheated me again.
You chose the bottoms this time, Bear. It's a done deal.
By now, Bear was wide awake. From now on, I'll plant my own crops and take the tops and the bottoms.
So Hare and his family scooped up the lettuce, the broccoli, and the celery and hopped toward home.
Bear never again slept through a season of planting and harvesting. Bear bought back his land from the money from the farm, and he and Mrs. Hare opened a vegetable stand. Hare and Bear learned to live happily as neighbors, but they never became business partners again.
The end.
Once upon a time, there was a king, the very first king. He had a magic crown and a magic sword. When he died, they broke a part of his sword and forged it inside of the crown, and then it started sparking a lot, and then it made a lot of magical creatures. But not everything you make is perfect. It made big bad wolf, dragons, and this big bad king named the Moor. He wants to steal the crown so he can become most powerful of all. Let's just go into the future and meet these two kids. These two kids are named Max and Jax. They are the youngest in the family tree of the king. They were playing knights like usual, and then they heard a bang, 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 and it sounded like it came from the magic quarters. So they went there, and the only window that was there was shattered, and then the crown was gone where it was last placed. And then the big bad wolf came out of nowhere and grabbed them and jumped into a portal. And they started chasing the big bad wolf footprints, and they didn't even notice that they were inside of a dragon's den until they felt a big black scaly tail hit them on the foot. So when they looked up, they saw that the big bad wolf was handing the crown to the dragon. So they both jumped up onto the dragon, not even noticing that the big bad wolf actually brought them closer to the crown. When the dragon started flying away, they were still holding on, and it went to the highest peak of the village where there was a cave where the Moor lived. And then when the dragon landed, he threw the crown into the cave, and then the kids started running up into the cave, and the dragon went in there just to keep an eye on the kids to see if he needed to capture them if they tried to escape. And then they saw this big baggy cloak as big as 20 elephants in a big bunch. And then the cloak fell off, and it was a giant turtle with a squirt gun on his back. And it didn't shoot water, it shot feet fungus. And the squirt gun started spinning and shooting the fungus everywhere, and it hit the dragon, and it passed out because of the smelly smell. And then the two kids started climbing up the leg of the Moor on different sides, and then the Moor shot both of them squirted them both in the face with the fungus, and they fell off, but they were both holding the crown. And when they fell off, the crown broke into two. And then when they were down, they were like, no, 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 no. And then a big ghost came out of both sides, and it was the king, the first king. And it said, "You two will be the people who can wear the crown." And then they both magnetized together and made the crown once again. And then the turtle was still spinning its thing, the squirt gun, and then he accidentally squirted himself in the face and knocked himself out. And then they went home, and they found their parents trying to look for them because they were off on the adventure. 15 years later. So here's a list of what has happened to past the 15 years. Jax has became the king. Max became a knight because he loved to play it the most. The bad guys I don't think you really want to know what happened to them. Happily ever after. Not really for the bad guys. The end.
It starts a long time ago when there was a mommy little pig who had 3 teenager little pigs. She says, "You've been cooped up in my den way too long, and why don't you go out and explore the world?" said the mom. So they went out there and started building houses for their new home. And the first pig built his house out of thin, weeny, teeny little sticks. And the third one built his house out of big logs. And then the third one said, "I'm going to build my house out of snow." So he has an igloo. Along that day, the pigs are doing whatever the pigs would do. A wolf came marching into town and knocked on the first pig's door.
Little pig, let me in for some pig pie.
Not by the hair of our chinny chin.
Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow, blow, blow. And did those twigs go?
And the pig ran over to his older brother's house, squeaking and oinking. Eat, 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 eat. And they locked the doors. The wolf came by earlier that day and knocked on the door.
Little pigs, let me in for some pig pie. Not by the hair of our chinny chins. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow, blow, blow. Ooh. And did those logs go?
And they ran over to their brother's house, squeaking and oinking. And they locked the doors. The pig came over and knocked on the door angrily.
Pig? Wolf, you mean?
Wolf.
Little pigs, let me in for some pig pie. Not by the hair of our chinny chins. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow, blow, blow.
Little specks of snow.
No.
And the wolf blew with an exhausted breath.
Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow, blow, blow. And the house still standing.
And the wolf looked around in curiosity. And he noticed a chimney up at the top of the house and decided to climb. By the time he reached the top of the chimney, the pigs have already made a wolf stew. They've already thrown in garlic, onions, wolf broth, and carrots. The wolf jumped into the chimney right as they lit the fire. He felt the heat and scratched the walls frantically, trying to save himself. He saved himself just in time, but it was a little late. His toe dipped into the burning hot of wolf stew, and he blasted out the chimney with a cry of pain. And the wolves lived happily ever after. Pigs lived happily ever after. Thank you.
I hate picture books. All picture books do is get me in trouble. I mean, one time after I read Green Eggs and Ham, I opened up the fridge to look for a snack, and at the back of the fridge there was a plate of green ham. I mean, I didn't want to try it. It looked gross, you know, green ham. But the story told me I should try it. So I took the plate, took a bite, and threw up all over the floor. Another time, after I read a story about Harold and the purple crayon, the kid Harold, you know, and he draws his picture world. Well, when I drew all over the walls, Mom got mad at me and sent me to my room without supper. I was so mad, I wish my room would turn into a wild jungle with a boat to take me to another jungle where the wild things lived. When I woke up, there was nothing! No boat, no jungle, no wild things, just my boring old room. And another one, the one, Are You My Mother? That one's so sad, when the bird can't find its mom and it looks everywhere and asks everyone it meets, and nobody can tell him where his mom is. And then when the snort picks him up and takes him to his nest, oh, that book is so sad. I love that book. Oh, wait, no I don't. I hate that book. I hate all picture books. Every picture book has to go. Wait, I really do love that book. Oh no, I have to find that book. Here it is. Oh, I love this book. The end.
Hank lived in a pot. The pot sat in a window looking out at the empty desert. It was hot, dry, peaceful, and quiet, just the way Hank liked it.
But every now and then, someone would disturb Hank's peace and quiet. Hi, Hank, Rosie Tumbleweed called out. Isn't it a beautiful day? Hank ignored him. He just wanted to be left alone.
Okay, so long, said Rosie cheerfully as she tumbled away. Hank was happy again.
But just as he was starting to relax, hello, shouted a tortoise.
Private property, yelled Hank. Keep out! The tortoise was so frightened that he hid in his shell.
Hank was still yelling at the tortoise when a jackrabbit dashed by. Hi, Prickles, she said. My name isn't Prickles, yelled Hank. And keep off the yard, totally right here.
Tumbleweeds, tortoises, jackrabbits. What's next? Asked Hank.
A coyote loomed by. No dogs allowed, yelled Hank. I'm not a dog, said the coyote, and you are as prickly on the inside than the outside.
Hank didn't even have time to get back at the coyote before a cowboy strode past. Keep off the grass, yelled Hank. What grass? Said the cowboy. Looks to me somebody needs a hug. Too bad nobody hugs a cactus.
Hi, said the lizard. Who invited you? Said Hank. And in case you're wondering, I don't want a hug. Good, said the lizard, because I don't want to give you one. Then he skittled away.
An owl landed on the roof. If you're looking for a hug, said Hank, well, I guess I could give you one.
Ooh, me? Said the owl. You must be joking. The first time, Hank started to feel a bit lonely.
The next morning, Hank was feeling more sad on the inside than prickly. Maybe a hug wouldn't be so bad after all.
The winds picked up. Shh. Old Cut flew by and stuck to Hank's face. His arms were too short to get off him. Great, said Hank.
Just then Rosie tumbled by. I'll get it off you, Hank, she said, and jumped up to get it off. And then she tumbled away.
Hank never got time to thank Rosie. He felt so bad about all the other times he was so rude to her. So he came up with a plan.
He was going to grow her the best flower he could and then give it to her as a thank you gift. He couldn't wait for Rosie to pass by again. And it took a few days to grow.
When finally Rosie came bouncing by, look, Rosie, said Hank, I grew it just for you.
Rosie was so surprised, she jumped up and gave Hank a great big hug. It felt so nice, Hank didn't want to let go. And as it turns out, he couldn't. They were stuck together. But they didn't care because after all, it's better to be stuck in a hug than stuck alone.
Mortimer was lonely. Cupid's ball was just a few weeks away, and he didn't have a sweetheart. Oh, he tried, but somehow the ladies didn't appreciate Mortimer's affections. He gave the girl at the bus stop a fancy box of chocolates with worms. He gave the mail carrier a shiny red heart. Aria won. He gave the waitress at the diner a stunning diamond ring with a finger on it. Poor Mortimer. He read books and followed all of their advice. He took his dogs for a walk in the park. He worked out at the gym. He even took ballroom dance lessons. Nothing he did to impress the girls. Then Mortimer got an idea. He placed an ad in the newspaper. He was sure this was the answer. Tall, dead, and handsome. If you like taking walks in the graveyard, falling down in the rain, ain't into cooking and you got half a brain, then I'm the guy you've been looking for, and I'm dying to meet you. Saturday, Cupid's Ball, Punch Bowl, 7 p.m. On Saturday, he shopped for a new suit. He combed his hair and put on his best cologne. Cupid's Ball was hopping. Couples were laughing, dancing, and, well, having a ball. Mortimer took his place near the punch bowl and waited and waited and waited. Each time a girl approached the table, Mortimer would smile like this. Each time the girl would shriek and run away. As the night wore on, the punch bowl began to empty. As the night wore on, the room began to empty. The punch bowl did not. Soon it became clear to Mortimer nobody was dying to meet him. He shuffled towards the exit when he heard a loud thud, followed by an even louder crash. He turned around. There on the floor was a girl. Her name was Mildred, and she was drop-dead gorgeous. She smiled like this. Mildred stood up and shook the pineapple rings from her hair. "Am I too late?" she asked. The clock struck 12. "You're just in time," said Mortimer. Mortimer and Mildred danced. They held hands and dined by the moonlight. It was love at first sight, hers and his. The end.
Once upon a time, in a faraway land, in the middle of the sea, there was an island, and there were 3 very unique things about that island. 1 was magic. 2 was sorcery. 3, the most unique of all, were dragons. There was one specific little dragon named Max. He was a tough, nice, kind, fire-breathing dragon. One day, when he was flying above the island and looking into the sea, he saw something flying in the distance. It was big, red, with horns, and it was spiky. It was a big, red, fire-breathing dragon. Once it got close enough, it breathed fire to scare all the dragons on the island. It scared all of them, except one, Max. The dragon breathed fire again to try and scare Max with the others. It didn't work. Max breathed fire at the red fire-breathing dragon. It hit his wing. It made holes in his wing. It was hard to fly with holes in his wing. He tried to fly back to his island, but while he was flying, his arm broke. He fell into the water. He swam back to his island. Good thing dragons are good swimmers. At the end of the day, they had a party. It was a very fun party. They had food, games, they laughed. They all had a very good time. And they were all so happy they had their island. They all thanked Max for what he did. And that they have their island now, it was all because of Max. The end.
One day, little Sal and her mother went up to Blueberry Hill to pick some blueberries. Little Sal's mother brought along her large tin pail, and little Sal brought along her small tin pail to put the berries in. As they started walking up the hill, her mother explained, "Little Sal, we're going to take these berries home and can them. That way we can have food for the coming cold winter." Little Sal started to pick her berries. She dropped 3 into her bucket. Ka-plink, ka-plank, ka-plunk. Little Sal picked 3 more berries and dropped 1 in the bucket. The rest she ate. Then little Sal ate all 4 berries out of her bucket. Little Sal's mother was walking through the bushes, picking berries and thinking about canning them for the next winter. Little Sal dropped 1 berry into her mother's bucket, but it didn't make a ka-plink sound like she'd expected because the bottom of the bucket was already filled with berries. Little Sal reached down inside the bucket to get her berry back. Though she hadn't really meant to, she accidentally picked out a very large handful because there were so many close up right to the one she put in. Little Sal's mother turned sternly around and she said, "Little Sal, run along and pick your own berries. Mother wants to take hers home for canning for next winter." Now little Sal, because her legs were very tired of walking, sat down in the middle of a large clump of berries to eat blueberries. Over on the other side of Blueberry Hill, Little Bear and his mother were coming to eat blueberries on Blueberry Hill. Little Bear's mother said to him, "Now, Little Bear, you must eat lots of berries and grow large and fat. That way we can have food stored up for the coming cold winter." They started to eat berries. Little Bear's mother walked through the bushes, slowly eating all the berries she could reach. Little Bear, however, hustled to catch up to her and only ate berries now and then, but then he had to hustle up more to catch up. Little Bear, because his feet were very tired of hustling, sat down in the middle of a large clump of berries and began to eat blueberries. By now, Little Sal had eaten all the berries she could reach from where she was sitting, and so she stood up to find her mother. She heard a noise from around a large rock, and she thought, "That must be my mother walking along, and I will look that way." But it was a mother partridge and her children, and they ran away and stopped eating berries when they saw her. Then Little Sal heard noises from the bushes around her, and she thought, "That must be my mother, and I will look that way." But it was Little Bear's mother instead, and she was walking through the bushes, eating berries and thinking about storing up food for the next winter. Little Sal tramped right along behind her. By now, Little Bear had eaten all the berries he could reach from where he was sitting, and so he stood up to find his mother. He heard a noise from around a stump, and he thought, "That must be my mother walking along." But it was a Mother Crow and her children, and they stopped eating berries and flew away with a caw-caw, caw-caw, caw-caw. Little Bear heard noises from the bushes, and he thought, "That must be my mother, and I will look that way." But it was Little Sal's mother instead, and she was walking through the bushes, picking berries and thinking about canning up the berries for the next winter. Little Sal hustled right along behind her. Back on the other side, Little Bear heard Little Sal behind her, and she thought it was Little Bear, and so she said through mouthfuls of berries, "Little Bear, eat as many berries as you can possibly hold." Little Sal, of course, said nothing, and she kept picking her berries, and she dropped 3 into her bucket. Ka-plink, ka-plank, ka-plunk. Little Bear's mother turned around to see what on earth could make such a noise like ka-plink. She gasped, "Oh my goodness, you are not Little Bear. Where is my child?" And she backed slowly away from Little Sal. She was old enough to be shy of people, even very small people like Little Sal, and so she ran away quickly to find Little Bear. Back on the other side, Little Sal's mother heard Little Bear behind her, and she thought it was Little Sal, and so she kept right along picking her berries for the next winter. Little Bear poked his nose into Little Sal's mother's bucket. He only wanted to taste a few of the berries that were inside, but by accident he managed to eat a tremendous mouthful because they were all so close to each other. Without turning around, Little Sal's mother said, "Now, Little Sal, go along and pick your own berries. Mother wants to take hers home for canning for next winter." Little Bear tasted another tremendous mouthful. And so by now she turned around and she saw him and she gasped, "Oh my goodness, you are not my child. Where is Little Sal?" And she backed slowly away from Little Bear. She was old enough to be afraid of bears, even very small bears like Little Bear, and so she ran quickly off to find Little Sal. She hadn't gone very long before she heard a ka-plink, ka-plank, ka-plunk. She knew exactly what made that kind of a noise. And Little Bear's mother had not gone very long before she heard a hustling that stopped now and then to take a munch and a swallow. She knew exactly what made that kind of a noise. And so Little Bear and his mother walked down one side of Blueberry Hill, full of berries stored up for the next winter. And Little Sal and her mother walked down the other side of Blueberry Hill, having lots of berries to can for the next winter, a whole pail of blueberries, and 3 more besides.
There once was a bear who owned lots and lots of land. He worked hard and hard and hard to get all of his food and crops ready for him and his son. Then he gave all his land to the sand, but his son didn't really like to take care of that land. He liked to do 3 things: sleep, sleep, and sleep. Not far down the road lived a hare. Now, Hare was very tricky. He lost a risky bet with the tortoise and had to give all of his land away. One day, Mrs. Hare said to Hare, "Our children are in very bad shape, and they're very hungry too. We need to do something about it." That night they cooked up a plan. The next day, Hare marched up to Bear's den. "Wake up, Bear!" Bear opened one eye, only 1/4% awake. "We've got some business. I will do all the work, harvest, everything like that. And all that you have to do is just sleep. I will get you all of your food." Now Bear really liked this idea. Sleep and food? What could be better? So Bear agreed on the deal. "I guess," said Bear. "But one question," said Hare. "Tops or bottoms?" "Tops," said Hare. So Hare and his family got to work. They worked and worked and worked while Bear slept and slept and slept. Hare planted, Mrs. Hare watered, and the whole family weeded. Finally, when it came time to harvest, Hare marched up to Bear's den. "Wake up, Bear!" Bear opened one eye, only 1/4 awake. "What is it?" he moaned. "Here's your food." In Hare's pile, there were radishes and turnips, carrots and potatoes. But in Bear's pile, there were just a bunch of leaves. "What is this?" said Bear. "Well, Bear, you said you wanted tops." "You owe me another year of work, and this time I want bottoms." "Just what you deserve," said Hare. "It's a done deal." So Hare and his family worked and worked and worked while Bear slept and slept and slept. Hare planted, Mrs. Hare watered, and the whole family weeded. Finally, when it came time to harvest, Bear marched up to Bear's den. "Wake up, Bear!" Bear opened one eye. When he saw what was in his pile, he was half awake. What? In Hare's pile, there was cabbages and lettuce, but in Bear's pile, there were just a bunch of roots. "What is this?" said Bear. "Well, Bear, you said you wanted bottoms." "You owe me another year of work," said Bear, "and this time I want both tops and bottoms." "Just what you get," said Hare, "just what you get. It's a done deal." So Hare and his family worked and worked and worked while Bear slept and slept and slept. Hare planted, Mrs. Hare watered, and the whole family weeded. Finally, when it came time to harvest, Hare marched up to Bear's den. "Wake up, Bear!" Bear opened one eye. When he saw what was in his pile, he was now wide awake and angry. In Hare's pile, there was tons and tons of corn. But in Bear's pile, there were tassels, stems, and roots. "What is this?" said Bear. "Well, Bear, you said you wanted tops and bottoms. We still get something because we did all the work. So we got middles," said Hare cheerfully. And with that, he and his family marched back to their house. With all the money they got from their food, Hare and his family were able to get back some land. Bear started working in his fields too. Hare and Bear were still pretty good friends, but they never, ever, ever became business partners again. The end.
Hi, my name's Cinderella. Well, my real name's Ella, but they call me Cinderella. So, you know how in those stories and the movies, I become a beautiful princess and live happily ever after? That's not true. You see, this is the true story of Cinderella. My mom died when I was born. So that makes my father in charge of me until I was 8. That was when he died. But thankfully, he remarried. But when he died, my stepmother and her 2 stepsisters became wicked. So mean. So then, I was forced to be the maid or something. And, yeah. One day, I found myself next to the fireplace. And that's pretty much how I got the name Cinderella. And then, when I was 18, I heard a knock. When we opened the door, we saw it was the prince. He said he was having a ball and inviting every girl in the kingdom, including me. But, of course, since my stepsisters and stepmother are so wicked, I was forced to stay home and do my chores. Not to mention they ripped up my dress. So the night came and I was at home doing my chores, which some of them were really hard. I had to get the bird's nest out of our chimney. Then, once I was all dusty getting out of the chimney, I heard another knock. When I opened the door, it was a girl about this big, and she had these beautiful wings. And she said she was my fairy godmother. How exciting! She said she was gonna give me a dress, a ball gown, some slippers, even a pumpkin carriage. So when I was on my way to the ball with my beautiful new gown, she told me, "Now, Cinderella, don't be late. Be back at midnight or else everything will turn back." So I said, "Okay." So when I was on my way to the ball, I was hoping my sisters wouldn't recognize me. But thankfully, since I got a fabulous new makeover, they didn't. So me and the prince danced and danced and danced, and then it happened. I heard the worst thing in my life. Dong, dong. The strokes of midnight. I had to get out of here. I raced out, leaving my slipper, but I didn't care. And I went right into my pumpkin carriage and then just drove all the way home. Finally, in there just in time, my dress turned back to rags. And everything was back to normal. So I just thought, oh, well, the stepsisters wouldn't know, so I'll just go back. So then, the next day, we had another knock on our door. It was the prince again. He said that his girl of his dreams was left early and had left her slipper. My slipper. First he tried it on my stepmother. No match. Then my oldest stepsister. No match. Then my youngest stepsister. And the worst thing happened. It bit. So now I'm still here, stuck in rags, wishing I had gone before my stepsister. The end.
Today I'm going to tell you something about myself and the other koalas in the wolf. Everybody just 'cause we're fully, don't call us bears. If you did your studies on marsupials, you would know we are not bears. We are koalas. Just know that. And I'll tell you how it all started. A few dozen years ago, there was this one old pioneer. He was a leader of a bunch of them. And basically, he saw one of my fellow koalas, and he called us a bear. Even one of his fellow pioneers tried to tell him that we were koalas, not the bears. But he didn't listen. He thought he was so sure. He told everybody it was a bear, and his fellow pioneers were wrong. So, if you don't stop it, I'm going to tell you a little deal. Us and all the koalas in the universe, or Earth, I guess, we're going to the moon. We're taking over the moon. We'll be the aliens to your moon. And there's nothing you can do about it, 'cause, let me think, 2 reasons. Oh, I have 2 sharp claws on my 2 fingers. Maybe 3. So you don't want to mess with us anymore. Don't call us bears. Don't call us even a different type of animal that looks like us. Even we're like twins. Like, just stop it, and I'll talk to you in a bit. And a few years later, I told you 2 years later I would do this. Koalas, get the ship ready. Goodbye, Earth. We're going to the moon. We're gonna take it. Okay, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Okay, and that's why you shouldn't call koalas bears. And basically, this is how we got on the moon. The end.
Dorothy Penguin followed Uncle Beanie up the hill. "Are we there?" he asked Dorothy, puffing hard. "Almost, Dot," said Uncle Beanie, taking Dorothy's hand, as they walked on for a few more minutes and then scrambled up the last big mound of snow. Dorothy Penguin and Uncle Beanie had reached the top of Glacier Hill. "What about the view, Dottie?" asked Uncle Beanie. And they could see for hundreds of miles. The penguins were everywhere, and the houses were so tiny. And then she could see all the penguins shopping on their way to the park and playing. Then he asked, "What do you think about all the penguins?" asked Uncle Beanie. "But we all look the same," said Dorothy, as she frowned. The next morning she wandered into the garden as she saw her mom. "What's the matter?" her mother asked. "Mom, I want to be different. I'm just the same as all the other penguins." "You are different, Dorothy. You are different and special to me," said Dorothy's mother. "Now, have you written your letter to Santa yet?" "No," but Dorothy stammered. And so she decided to go see what Uncle Beanie was doing and play with her friends. As she went to Uncle Beanie's house, he was pulling out an old sled. "Hello, Dot. Have you come to help me fix this old sled?" "Uncle Beanie, I have a question," Dorothy asked. How can I make myself look different?" "Why would you ask such a question? When you're lucky enough to be a penguin?" Now what are you going to ask Santa for Christmas yet?" "I don't know," Dorothy stammered. "I think I'm going to go play." So she walked on to her friend Neil and Roy's house and decided to play. And they were writing all the things they wanted for Christmas: a Snow Wars computer game, new scarves, and a sled. So then Dorothy decided to take a piece of paper and write down what she wanted for Christmas. Here's her letter. "Dear Santa, I know you're very busy this time of year, but I have one small request. I would like to make myself a little different. P.S. I've been very good this year. Ask Mom. Love, Dorothy. XOXO." Then, on Christmas Eve, she was all tucked in for bed. Then, a few miles down in the North Pole, Santa had a problem as he was putting on his boots and hat. Achoo! Santa, said one of the elves, we're sick and the reindeer broke his ankle. And so Santa remembered a very special letter he stuffed in his pocket that day. And then he went to Dorothy's house. Dorothy almost fell out of bed as she was staring at Santa in her bedroom. And then Santa said, I need your help. And so then they went all around the world delivering presents, and there was one more present left for Dorothy. And so she stuck it under the village Christmas tree the next morning. So the next morning, Dottie said, Uncle Beanie, are you ready to go? And they all walked to the Christmas village. Then she opened the last little present. See you next year. Love, Santa. And inside was an elf hat, and she was happy because the elf hat helped her be different. The end.
Look at me, I'm a beautiful tiger. See my black stripes and my long, long tail. Hear me roar. I roar and the elephant stands still. I roar and the elephant sits. The monkey sits still in the trees. I smell something good to eat, and I will find it. There is a delicious meal under a hanging cage. The silly tiger walks into the trap. Bang! The cage closes in on him. Help! Help! Will nobody help me? The elephants hear him, but they stand still. The monkeys hear him, but they sit still in the trees. Then an old man walks by. Old man, won't you help me? Won't you open the door so I can get out?
Oh, no. If I do so, you will eat me.
Nonsense. I had my dinner.
So you will not eat me?
No, you are too skinny.
Okay, then I will open the door.
The old man opens the door. Suddenly, the tiger pounces on him. Finally, I can eat. I am so hungry, I could eat a skinny old man.
But tiger, you said you would not eat me.
Foolish old man, I went into the trap to get food, and now I will have it. Now stand still so I can eat you.
Please, tiger, please. Let me ask just one thing.
What is it? Come, I am very hungry.
Let me walk down the path and ask the first 3 people I meet, is it right for the tiger to eat me? If they all say yes, I will be happy to let you eat me. If one of them says no, you will have to let me go.
It is a silly thing to ask. I know they will say yes, but go and ask.
Thank you, tiger.
The old man walks down the path and comes across a tree.
Tree, can you help me? A tiger was in the trap. I let him out of the trap, and now he wants to eat me. Is this the right thing for him to do?
Old man, do not seem so unhappy. Look at me, I am good to men. I give them shade under my branches, and all they do in return is cut me down for my wood. Go, old man, and let the tiger eat you.
Not yet.
The old man continues down the path and comes across an ox.
Ox, can you help me? A tiger was in the trap. I let him out of the trap, and now he wants to eat me. Is this the right thing for him to do?
Old man, do not seem so unhappy. Look at me. I work morning till midnight, working for men. I work, and they do not even let me stop to rest. Go, old man, and let the tiger eat you.
Not yet.
The old man continues down the path and comes across a road.
Road, can you help me?
A tiger was in the trap. I let him out of the trap, and now he wants to eat me. Is this the right thing for him to do? Oh, old man, do not seem so unhappy. Look at me. I made a road for men, and all they do in return is walk all over me without even bothering to say thank you. Go, old man, and let the tiger eat you.
Oh me.
No, I can find no one to help me. Now I'll have to go and let the tiger eat me. The old man walks down the path and encounters a fox. Old man, why do you seem so unhappy? A tiger was in the trap. I let him out of the trap, and now he wants to eat me.
the tree, the ox, and the road all say it's the right thing for him to do. I still do not understand. I am all mixed up. Bring me to the tiger and let him tell the story. The fox and the old man walked down the path back to the jungle. There you are. Come, come, I am very hungry. Patience, tiger, patience. The fox wants to ask you something. I do not understand, the old man. I am all mixed up. Okay, will you tell the story? There is nothing to tell. I walked into the trap. Is that the trap? Yes, can't you see it? Then the old man came by, helped me. And now you want to thank him? I want to thank him by eating him. I still do not understand. I am all mixed up. The old man was in the trap. You let him out of the trap to eat him, and now he won't say thank you. No, I was in the trap. See, like this. The tiger jumps back into the trap and the fox slams the door behind him. Oh, now I see. Yes, I was in the trap. The old man came by and let me out. The old man stands still. Old man, let me out. The old man still stands still. He begins to laugh. Let me out this instant. I demand you. The old man is still laughing. I see, fox, I see. Now, let me thank you. It was my pleasure, old man. You and I will sleep better. The old man and the fox walk down the path and are still laughing. This time, the elephants do not stand still, and the monkeys do not stop playing in the trees. Will no one help a poor, hungry tiger?
Her name was Diliki Dinah. Niece she was to the Empress of China. Fair she was as a morning in May, when High Kokolorum stole her away. High was a wizard, I'd have you know, wicked as weasels and mean as a crow. Lived in a castle atop of a hill, had a panther whose name was Bill. Used to ride him around and around, creeping and peeping close to the ground, working mischief wherever he could, nothing about him in any way good. Saw the mated one midsummer morn, sweetest creature that ever was born, creeping and peeping in his wizardly way, catched her and snatched her and stole her away. All through China arose a cry, someone has stolen our Diliki Di. People gathered in every forum, crying it must have been High Kokolorum. All the barons in China land, Ling the lofty and Bing the bland, Kong the kingly and Bong the brave, vowed a vow to find and save. Darling Diliki Dinah, niece you know to the Empress of China, fair you know as a morning in May, whom High Kokolorum had stolen away. Now in a kingly ringly row, round and about the hill they go, Ling the lofty and Bing the bland, Kong and Bong, and there they stand, weaving a weird and spinning a spell, all with intent to quash and quell High Kokolorum, worker of woe, wicked as weasels and mean as a crow. Darling Diliki Dinah was weeping her fill, when out stepped softly the panther Bill. Whispered, if you will give me a kiss, I'll turn your sorrow into bubbling bliss. She to animals always kind said, no, really, well, I don't mind. Gave him a kiss on his nose so pink, and goodness gracious, what do you think? He turned into a beautiful golden king. Crown and scepter and everything. Ran the old wizard through and through, saying, now there is end of view. Cried to the Bolins, bare and brave, I've had the honor to find and save Darling Diliki Dinah,
Niece, you know, to the Empress of China, fair she was as a morning in May, and she's my queen from this very day. Once upon a time, a man was walking down the street till he came to a sign, and it was a girl. But it wasn't just a girl. It was a missing princess of potatoes. And so the very next day, he went off to look for the princess until he came to this tower, and it looked like it was 100 feet tall. And so he said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." A voice answered, "What? My golden cow? I thought everyone had those, but okay." So she threw down her golden cow. Moo. He just ran away. He came back the very next day. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." She answered, "What? My golden bed? No, no," he said. But it was too late. He already threw it down. "No!" Splat. It went right on him. And the Mercy people came, but you won't believe it. They didn't evilly see the tower. So he came the very next day, all poor. Looked like he broke all of his bones. So he said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, please don't do anything bad." But, so he said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden curls." "What? My golden lasagna? No, no. Your golden hair." Well, it was too late. She already threw down her golden lasagna. Splat. This is really delicious. But I said your golden hair. Oh, you meant my golden underwear. You should have said that the first time. So she threw it down. He just walked away. He came back the very next day, said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." "What? My golden maid? No, no." So she threw down her golden maid, and right before it touched the ground, they rode out in the sunset on his beautiful horse. And Rapunzel had to say, "You know there was a door right the end."
Once upon a time, there were 3 little trees on top of a big mountain. Those 3 trees each had wishes. The first tree looked up at the stars, and he thought that he wanted to be a treasure chest filled with precious jewels and covered with precious things. The second tree looked down at the water and thought he wanted to be a ship fit for kings. The third tree stood up tall on the hill and did not want to be anything. She wanted to stand up pointing straight, and she wanted everybody to look at her, and when they looked at her, they would think of God. One day, 3 men climbed up that mountain. The first man went up to the first tree and said, "This tree will be just right for me," and cut it down. The second man did the same. The third man didn't even look up all the way at the tree and said, "Any tree will do," and cut it down. The third tree was really sad. One day, the first tree turned into a animal feeder at a farm. And he was very sad because he did not get to be a chest. The second tree he was very excited because he was getting took into a shipyard, but there were no giant ships being made that day fit for kings. Then he got sad when he got turned into just a regular fishing boat. The third tree just got cut up into strips of wood and just got laid in a pile. One day, 2 people found the animal feeder and they thought that it would be good for their baby. So then he realized that that was the most precious thing he could ever have instead of being a chest filled with jewels. The second tree was holding a whole bunch of people inside of a massive storm. One of the people woke up, held his hands out, and he said peace, and the storm stopped. The third tree was carried into a crowd by a man. She flinched and everything, but when they got to the end, she felt horrible because that man's hands were pushed into it. She thought that she was really bad. But then, one day, they all thought that that was the perfect thing for them, and the third tree was able for people to look at her, or when they thought of her, they would think of God. That's my story.
Once upon a time, there's a little girl named Goldilocks. She was once sent by her mother to go buy some muffin mix. Little does her mother know, Goldilocks is one of those kids that cannot be trusted. Goldilocks was sent to the store, but there's a shortcut to get to the shops. So her mother knows that shortcut thing is there. So she said, Goldilocks, promise you will not go through the shortcut. It is very, very dangerous. Goldilocks said, I promise, Mother, I will not go through the shortcut. But, Goldilocks was walking. She seen the big sign that said, shortcut, very risky. Even though her mother said, do not go through the shortcut, Goldilocks went through the shortcut. Right when she entered through the shortcut, she seen this very, very big house. When she seen that house, she looked through the windows and she seen that no one was there. So she decided to go see if the door was unlocked. She seen that the door was unlocked, so she entered the house. She entered the house and she seen these three very, very big plates that were wolf-shaped heads. And she seen that inside of those plates were her favorite food. So she decided to get the spoon. She tried it, she loved it, she ate it all. She seen that her stomach started to grow just a little. So she seen the other plate. She tried it just to make sure she liked it. She tried it, she ate it all, she loved it. So she got the next spoon for the other plate. She tried it just in case and she loved it. She ate it all. She seen that her stomach even got bigger. So since her stomach was hurting a lot because of all that food she ate, she decided to explore the house more. She went upstairs and she seen that there was a huge, humongous bed. So she decided to get on that bed and lay down to see if she liked it. She loved it because it was not too soft or it was not too hard. So she lay down. She didn't even know when she fell asleep. So she fell asleep and then she woke up 3 hours later. So she knew that she had to go get the muffins for her mother to the shops. So she went running downstairs. Oops, she fell down the stairs because she would not be able to run. Her stomach got bigger. So she went downstairs walking carefully. She went to the shop speed walking. She went to the shops and got there, got the muffin mix and ran and started to try to run again. but she forgot and she fell again. She got all dirty from mud, so she stood back up and walked. Right when she was about to exit the shortcut, her mother was right there. She's like, "Oh, Goldilocks, you're in big, big trouble." So Goldilocks speed walked all the way to her house. Right when she entered, she seen that there was muffins already made. She's like, right when her mother entered, she said, "Mother, how come there's already muffins perfectly baked?" Her mother said, "Oh, Goldilocks, I knew you were going to go through the shortcut because I know you're one of those kids. So I decided to follow you, and I seen you enter through the shortcut. So I decided to secretly enter behind you and go to the shops as fast as I could, get the muffin mix and come back home, put them in the oven and take them out when they were done, and go over to the shortcut to find you. Then I seen you there, and now we're here in this situation." The end.
Now, in a land not too far away, in a city called New Iceberg, lived a penguin who might change your thoughts about the world that you live in. Anyway, Peter was different from all the penguins. Even though all the penguins were different, they had one thing in common. They loved fish, loved it. They would eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even brunch, which was kind of awkward. Anyway, Peter didn't like fish. He hated it. He's like, "I don't like fish, man, so get out of my face." Peter, you know what Peter liked? Turkey ham sandwiches. And everybody at school would call him Turkey. And Peter didn't like that. Every day when he came home from school, he would go to his bed and cry. So one day he decided he was going to leave New Iceberg and go to Iceberg, which was kind of similar to New Iceberg. But it was going to take him a while because he's at Antarctica and Iceberg's at North Pole where Santa is. So when the ferry came in the next day, he packed his stuff and jumped out the window. Just kidding, he took the stairs. But when he was crossing the street, he got hit by a car. And the car was a taxi, and the guy in it was a weasel. Like literally, he was a weasel. And he poked Peter with a stick, which was not nice, because that made Peter very angry. When he woke up, he bit the stick out of the man's hand, and the man screamed away. So when Peter got to the ferry, he gave the guy his ticket and hid in a box, hoping he could live just for one more day. It took him about 3 months to get to Iceberg, and when he got there, he realized everybody that lived in Iceberg, everybody in it, were wearing sweatpants and nothing else, besides their dirty socks that they haven't washed for weeks. Anyway, Peter realized that Iceberg was a place for deranged old men to go if they had no connection to the outside world. Then Peter said something that he never thought he would say before. He said that the home that he had was already the greatest, and he left it for no good reason. So he jumped into the ocean, swam, jumped waves, jumped through sharks, and even jumped bananas. And when he got to Iceberg, he landed like a cool dude. And he climbed his building to the top because that's where his apartment is. And his mom was waiting for him. He hugged her so tight that her tonsils came out, like so bad. And he said that he was sorry that he left. Then Peter said that the home that he had was the best, and everybody at school that made fun of him, everybody that didn't like him, were his friends. Even if they didn't know it, even if they didn't show it, they were his best friends, even if he didn't know it. So he asked his mom this very question: "Mom, can I have some fish?" The end.
In his cave he heard a loud kerthunk. He stumbled outside into the snow. He saw this train which was begging him to go. Santa was on this train, but he didn't like Santa. He didn't like anything Christmassy. He didn't like decorations, light bulbs, snow. It was his worst, most least Christmas season that he hated in the whole entire universe. So the Grinch tried to get back in his cave, but Santa went and closed it. So he had to get on, but he had nothing, like nothing. So he went on the train, and there were only kids in. He's like 45. And then he went on to the next door, and then he heard something. Dahu Dores, welcome Christmas, come this way. Dahu Dores, welcome Christmas, come this way. And he hated the noise. He wanted to stop the noise, and he also wanted to stop Christmas. So he was in the hallway, and he found this man, and he said, "You want some hot chocolate?" And the Grinch said, "No, thank you, I hate hot chocolate." And there were marshmallows, and he said, "Ooh, what can it be?" And he ate all the marshmallows, yum, yum, yum. And then the man said, "Geez, you want hot chocolate with marshmallows?" "No hot chocolate," I said. And then the Grinch went on to the last store. He found these kids wearing the pajamas, and he didn't wear pajamas, and that's like new for him. And he sat down with a boy, and he asked, where are we going? And he said, "Well, of course, to the North Pole." And he said, "Oh no, I gotta get off this train." But as soon as he wanted to get off this train, the train engineer started the train. So he had to get to the North Pole. So he went up to the top of the he went on top of the train, and he found this man he had a big black beard and a bushy mustache with curly hair. Then he disappeared into thin air. Then he reappeared right behind him. Then he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "Okay." And then he ran. Then he found the North Pole. He saw Santa twice. So his heart grew bigger and bigger and bigger. The biggest heart ever. And then he became nicer. And then he wanted to share everybody his joyness.
Once upon a time, there were 3 sisters and 3 brothers. Their names were Melissa, Malia, Elizabeth, Bryson, Winston, and Junior. They loved to spend time with each other. They liked to play football and cheerleading. But one day, like on TV, their mom came out and said, "Go clean up your room." Then the oldest sister, Malia, did not want to clean her room. She wanted to keep playing. Then their Then they gathered all the brothers and sisters, and she said, "Don't listen." And they giggled, ha ha ha. And then they had a plan, a master plan. Elizabeth was the master person. She said, "Winston, go knock on the door when we sneak to lock Mom out." The plan worked. But little did know, the bathroom window was open, and the mom crawled in, and when she opened the bathroom door, she saw little Junior scribbling on the walls. She cried, and she just wanted the kids to clean. The kids felt so bad. They were sad. They don't want their mom to be sad. They just want to keep playing. But the oldest brother, Bryson, he made a new plan. He said we should clean our rooms. And when they were done cleaning their rooms, the oldest sister, Melissa, made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich just for her mom. They went in their mom's room and said, "Surprise! We got you a surprise!" And when the mom walked out of the room, she saw the whole house clean. And when she saw a little peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the table, just waiting for her. Then the kids gave the mom a hug and said sorry and never, ever do that again. The end.
I was new and nervous on my first day of school. I met my best friend Isaac. He told me all about my new crazy teacher.
That's right, I told him all about Miss Crazy Woman. She gave us paperwork that we didn't want to do at all.
Are you sure about that?
Come on.
When I was walking in class, I thought she would be having horns growing out of her head. And when I was walking in there, like tiptoeing and all that, she didn't seem so bad. I'm like, yeah, Isaac, she don't seem like that bad of a teacher. What are you talking about?
You haven't seen the worst of freaking fire-breathing devil woman. She gave us awful nicknames to our students.
True. Like the time that I came in and she called me JJ. I did not like that at all.
You're lucky she didn't call you freaking Frankie or cracking. Like the time I stole her lunch, put her on her desk, then she got her another lunch. Then she walked in class, she saw her lunch was on her desk.
Okay, that was pretty funny right there. And I was pretty cranky, okay? I was waiting for her fire-breathing rage, shaking in my boots. And at the end of it, it looked like she was joyful and kind until the end.
Yeah, but she did make us do a storytelling festival, even though we didn't want to.
Okay, dude, she might have a tail and a horn or two.
The moral of the story.
Then never trust a teacher named Jolly.
So me and my friends up in Idaho, we used to always play around, and we would go into the pond, we would play in the trees. It was really fun. So one day I woke up and I was playing video games with my friends, and I said, do you want to go and hang out? And they all said sure. We all got off our Xboxes, and I heard them calling from the other side of the, country, and they said, where are you? I was like, I'm over here. And so I needed to go to the tree house that we had in the forest because I had a surprise in it so we could all play together. I got there, and we were walking through the forest, and we were about to go to our treehouse, and we saw a goat just sitting there. It looked at us, bed, and then charged at us. We all scrambled up into the treehouse. So we all had to devise a plan, because this thing was headbutting the bottom of the tree, and it was mean, in my opinion. His name was Grumpy. And so we had a plan. I was looking for the super soakers because that was my thing I found. I found them over kind of like, there's this like section in the middle of where I used to live that had a bunch of stuff, just like a giant pile of fun. It was awesome. And so we were devising a plan. So my friend would get a stick that we always had for no reason, and he would throw it, distracting the goat, even though it didn't really work out. And then us would all run, jump off, and go into the leaves that we were going to, it was the leaves that were down there from last fall. It was like August near. It was like good time for swimming. So we all had our swimming trunks on. We ran down, we drew the stick, thing happened. We fell in there. There were spiders all over us because they decided to nest in the leaves. And we're running down to the pond. We all jump in, and it was fun. And then, so another one is, so me and my friends were playing around in the forest. We had weird wasps that had 2 stingers, and they were mean. And so we had to think of something so they wouldn't sting us, because these things were mean like that. They're like big, not big, but you know what I mean. And so there's like antlions where we live, those little bugs that make the dunes and then they catch the ants and stuff. So we got those and we put them around the place that we go. It didn't work, and so we wanted to test it, and so my friend said, well, let's just test it on like bees, not like those things. So one of my other friends decides to throw a rock at the biggest nest there is, and we're running away from a bunch of bees, and it's scary. And then we all once again get to the pond, and it's freezing because it's October. And we all lived happily ever after with maybe a few bee stings. The end.
Once, a long time ago, when pirates roamed the seas, there lived a boy 11 years old who found something mysterious. The story starts here. "Mom, Mom," Lionel yelled, "is breakfast ready yet?" And his mom said, "Well, we don't have any bread for breakfast." So to make him forget about his hunger, he went by the sea. And then his friends Mac, Arnold, and Faley came along. They asked him what he was doing, and he answered, "I am trying to get my mind off of my hunger." And so then they all just looked down and stared at the ground for a second. Then Lionel spotted something in the distance. It was a gray blob, and so they all walked towards it. When they got there, it was a huge cave, but it wasn't dark. If anything, it was brighter than outside. And soon enough, they walked in. And then there's these silver circles in the wall, and they were blocking their path. And then Lionel spotted a book on the ground. And so he picked it up and read the first page. It said, if you want to get past these, you have to close your eyes and say, "I am brave." And so Lionel told all his friends that, and so they all did it. And when they opened their eyes, the silver circles in the wall disappeared. Their path was clear again. And so they walked through it. Then there was 3 passageways and a sign that said, one will lead to safety and the other's death. So they had to choose wisely. And so they all agreed on the left passageway. So they all walked through it. And soon enough, they spotted this valley, and there was no way they could get across it. And so then Lionel flipped through the pages in the book, and he found a page that said, "Make a path appear." And So he read what to do. And so he told his friends that the book said they all had to kneel on these circles on the ground. So they all looked down and there were circles. So they all kneeled. And magically the path was there again. It was a bridge. And so they walked across the bridge. And then they got in this big dome, which was the back of the cave, but it wasn't bright anymore. It was dark. And then Faley tripped over something. And so they all picked it up, and it was heavy. And then the cave was just dark now again, and it seemed shorter, and all the obstacles disappeared. And so they all walked out of the cave, and they looked at what they were holding. It was a skull. And they all just stared at it in awe. And Max said, I heard something jingle. And so they all looked inside of it, and there was shimmery golden diamonds. And so Lionel was the one who got to bring the skull home. And so he showed his mom. And his mom said, now we have enough money to buy food. And Lionel nodded. But he didn't really care about the money. He was just excited for another adventure. The end.
It was the night before Halloween when a couple was walking on the beach, and the winds were heavy, and the couple's names were Jill and Jack. And they were both swept by the sea, and they came back the next year, and it was the night before Halloween. And when they went back to the old town, something was different. There was no more people, just all candy everywhere. And the pumpkins started coming out of the bushes, and they were shooting laser beams out of their eyes, turning people into candy. And Jack was hit with a laser beam and turned into a Snickers bar. And Jill went to her old house, and she found a cure for the candy, which was broccoli. And she made broccoli bombs and put them on the door. So when the candy would walk in, it would explode. And 20 pieces of candy walked in, and it activated the traps, and the candy was turned back into humans. And one of her friends was in there, and her name was Ollie. And they went upstairs and started making little bombs and throwing it at the pumpkins. And the pumpkins decided to make a pumpkin force of their own. And pumpkins started gathering on pumpkins to make a wall. And the wall of pumpkins was indestructible. So the humans decided, we won't quit, until one of them, then the Pumpkin King flicked a little ball of candy and hit Jill, and Jill was turned into a Kit Kat bar. And Ollie went downstairs to go get more ammunition when the Pumpkin King gathered a lot of candy and smashed it against the house. And all the candy smoke went everywhere, and Ollie didn't get touched. And she ran outside and went into the forest, and they found an underground cave, and there was food and everything to last for the whole month. But she wanted to go check if there were any more survivors. So she went out, and there were pumpkins with spears of candy, and took her out of the vault and put her on a chair and said, "You will be our new queen." And they bowed, and the Pumpkin King was sitting in the house. And then she was all like, "I will never date that green stem pumpkin." And he's all like, "If you refuse, we'll have you executed into a candy." And she's like, "I'd rather be a candy than marry a pumpkin." And she's all like, "Fine, it was your choice," and started shooting laser beams out of her eyes. And then she was hit by a pumpkin laser beam, and she was turned into a peanut butter finger. And they were walking to the old house, and there was still one more bomb of broccoli, and they activated it, and she was transformed back into a human, and she got free and ran outside, and then she grabbed a pumpkin bomb, and she threw it, and then she figured out that the pumpkins created a rocket to go back to get more people from the alien world. And she's like, these are aliens. I know what could destroy aliens. And she went to her house and she found a secret treasure that she had when she was a little kid, and it was a laser turning gun that shot laser beams. But when she went outside, her laser gun was turned and it didn't shoot because there was sticky caramel in it. And she's like, this is useless now. And she climbed on top of a cell tower, and she found a human with a broccoli sniper. But he's all like, I know it could destroy the pumpkins to turn them back into aliens. She's like, please tell me what. And he's all like, it's celery. And he had celery bullets and started shooting the pumpkins. And the pumpkins were all like, how are we turning back into aliens? And he's all like, I don't know. And then he's all like, sir, wake up. There's other people living around us, and they're turning all of us back into aliens. And they're all like, no, we will not be turned back into an alien. And the Pumpkin King was all like, give me all your strength, you little pumpkins. And they were like, no, sir, we cannot do that. You'll have way too much power and explode. He's all like, fine, then we'll all gather into a big nuke and nuke the place. And they nuked the city, but she figured out that she had superpowers, her friend, and she blocked it with a barrier. And the pumpkins were all like, sir, we lost balance of the nuke. And they were all like, these humans are good. And they finally decided, maybe the humans could give us an advantage. So they were like, we surrender, while the pumpkins were put themselves in chains. And they were all like, okay, fine. And they took them hostage, but when the Pumpkin King was one of them, they took him into a cage, and the Pumpkin King broke and took the friend that was turning them into aliens. And then she was all like, no. And then he ate him. And then she climbed back on the cell tower, and she found another gun hidden in the stash, which was made of broccoli. And she was like, I will avenge every one of these humans. And he's all like, no, you will not. And she's all like, oh, these pumpkins are so funny. How am I ever gonna get past them? So she's like, I found these. And they were broccoli, but there was a hint of something. They were ginormous, huge boots, and they could squish anything. So she decided to squish the pumpkins, but the pumpkins would just regenerate. And he's like, what's the power source of all these pumpkins? And he's all like, I wonder. And when he was inside the Pumpkin King, and the girl, she's like, if there's candy they're turning into, and they're aliens, and aliens come from the moon, how could they transform into a pumpkin? And she found the source of how the aliens transformed. It was a pumpkin filled with alien babies. And they were like, should I smash it or should I keep them? She's like, they're so cute. I want to keep one. And they were like, bah. And they all got out, and they were all little dogs, candy. And she's like, this was a diversion. And she figured, I will never ever lose to pumpkins until I'll find the power source. So she was living about 2 weeks into her house, and she figured,
if I can't find a source to defeat the pumpkins, and the pumpkins only have laser beams, if they can't see me, how would they turn me in? So she covered herself in mirrors. And she's all like, so when they shoot me, the laser beam will reflect at them. And she walked out, and it was dark. And she's like, hey, you big dumb stem heads. And they're like, who are you talking to? And then she was like, you. And they all started shooting laser beams at her. And she's all like, yeah, take that. And then she figured, I wonder. And she's all like, if I could be a pumpkin. And she went to the costume store. She's like, a pumpkin outfit, of course. And then she went to the carve, and then she destroyed all the pumpkins. That is the end of the night before Halloween.